But you can't deal a revolution.
In 1978, most Americans had never heard a rap song before. By 1984, hip-hop was on television, on the radio, in shopping malls, in suburban bedrooms, and in places thousands of miles from the Bronx, places like Western Kentucky. But before hip-hop could conquer America, before it could become the most popular genre of music on earth, it had to survive its first encounter with the music industry. And that encounter almost didn't happen at all. September 1979. A man walks into a recording studio in New Jersey. He isn't a famous rapper. He isn't a legendary DJ. In fact, he wasn't even present for most of the moments that created hip-hop. But in the next few minutes, he's about to help change music history. For years, hip-hop had existed almost entirely outside the music industry. No record deals, no radio stations, no music videos, no executives searching for the next rap superstar. Just park jams, rec centers, cassette tapes, and a culture spreading hand to hand. But by 1979, the movement had become too big to ignore. People wanted to know, could this thing actually sell records? The music industry didn't think so. Most record executives saw rap as a fad, a novelty, a passing street trend that would disappear as quickly as it arrived. Then a small independent record label decided to take a chance. 3 unknown performers stepped in front of a microphone and recorded a 15-minute song. The song wasn't supposed to change history. It wasn't supposed to launch a billion-dollar industry. It wasn't even supposed to become a hit. But when the needle touched the vinyl, hip-hop left the park. And the world would never be the same. Welcome back to the Underground Syllabus. The culture was growing. Park jams were getting bigger. Party tapes were spreading from borough to borough. Kids who had never seen the Bronx were memorizing routines from cassette tapes. But there was still one problem. You couldn't buy hip-hop. You couldn't walk into a store and take it home. If you missed the party, you missed the party. And most of the music industry thought that that was perfectly fine. Executives didn't understand rap. Many didn't even consider it music. To them, it was a novelty act. Something local, something temporary, something that would disappear once the next trend arrived. But one person heard something different. A woman named Sylvia Robinson. Sylvia wasn't a teenager hanging around Bronx park jams. She was a veteran of the music business. A singer, a songwriter, a record producer. And unlike most executives, she immediately recognized what she was hearing. The crowds were real. The energy was real. And if people loved hearing rap live, why wouldn't they buy it on a record? There was only one problem. Nobody had ever made a rap record before. So Sylvia had to build it from scratch. No talent scouts, no open auditions, just a woman with an ear for hits and a station wagon driving through Englewood, New Jersey. It's Friday night. Joey Robinson, Sylvia's son, is driving around town. He passes crispy crust pizza. And through the window, he hears something. It's a guy working the counter. A big guy. Slinging dough. Wrapping slices. Reciting rhymes over a boombox. His name is Henry Jackson. The neighborhood calls him Big Bank Hank. Joey runs back to the car, grabs his mother, and brings her inside. Right there next to the pizza oven, Hank auditions. Sylvia doesn't hesitate. She tells him to get in the car. But Hank isn't really a rapper. He's a manager. He manages a Bronx crew called the Mighty Force MCs, including one of New York's best lyricists, Grandmaster Caz. Hank goes to Caz and says, "I need rhymes. Fast." Caz hands over his notebook. He thinks it's a temporary gig, a little side hustle. He doesn't sign a contract. He doesn't ask for money. He just lends his words to a friend. By the time the station wagon pulls up to the studio, Sylvia has found 2 more local kids. Michael Wright, Wonder Mike, and Guy O'Brien, Master G. 3 young men who barely know each other. One carrying another man's notebook. Sylvia calls them the Sugarhill Gang. They walk into Positive Tone Studios. The house band is waiting. Sylvia tells the musicians to play the bass line from Chick's hit, Good Times. The musicians think she's crazy, but they play. Sylvia looks through the glass at the 3 young men. Then she hits record. 1 microphone, no blueprint, no one in the room knowing that they're about to make history. Wonder Mike steps forward, takes a breath, and says words that will soon travel from New Jersey to Western Kentucky to the world.
I said the hip hop, the hip it to the hip hop, you don't stop the rocker to the bang bang boogie. Say up jump the boogie to the rhythm of the boogie to beat.
Nobody knew what would happen next. Not Sylvia, not Wonder Mike, not Hank, not Master G, and certainly not Grandmaster Caz. But almost immediately, something felt different. The phone started ringing. Record stores started reordering copies. Radio stations that had spent years ignoring hip-hop suddenly wanted more. The song spread the same way that the party tapes had spread. One person heard it, then another, then another. Except this time, it wasn't traveling hand to hand. It was traveling coast to coast. Kids in Chicago heard it. Kids in Los Angeles heard it. Kids in small towns who had never seen the Bronx heard it. For millions of Americans, Rapper's Delight wasn't the first rap record. It was the first rap song they ever heard. And just like that, hip-hop escaped. It escaped the parks. It escaped the rec centers. It escaped the Bronx. And for the first time, the people who created the culture were no longer in control of where it went. The gates were open now. Record labels were paying attention. Radio stations were paying attention. America was paying attention. And once that happened, there was no putting it back. Hip-hop had escaped. The record was a hit. America was listening. But while the rest of the country was discovering rap, one man was discovering something else. Grandmaster Caz wasn't on the record. He wasn't in the studio. He wasn't standing next to Sylvia when the tape started rolling. But parts of him were there. A few weeks earlier, Big Bank Hank had come looking for help. Hank wasn't known as a great lyricist. He was a manager, a promoter, a hustler. And when Sylvia Robinson came calling, he needed material. Fast. So he went to someone he trusted. Grandmaster Caz, one of the best MCs in New York. Caz handed over his notebook, just like that. No contract, no lawyer, no paperwork. Just one friend helping another. At the time, nobody knew what Rapper's Delight would become. Why would they? Nobody had ever seen a rap record become a national hit. Nobody knew millions of people were about to hear those rhymes. Then the record exploded. And Caz started hearing something familiar. On the radio. In clubs. Out of passing car windows. Everywhere he went. Lines from his notebook. Lines he had written. Lines millions of people were now repeating. Only they weren't saying his name. Imagine turning on the radio, hearing your own words, and realizing the whole world thinks somebody else wrote them. That's what happened to Grandmaster Caz. When Rapper's Delight became a hit, the Sugarhill Gang became stars. The record sold millions. Hip-hop entered the mainstream, but the man whose rhymes helped make it possible received neither credit nor royalties. And in a strange way, that story was a preview of what was coming. Because hip-hop had now crossed the line. For the first time, there was real money involved. Real records. Real contracts. Real consequences. The culture that had been built in the parks, schoolyards, and rec centers was now a business. And businesses move differently than communities. Hip-hop had won, but victory came with a price. Because the moment rap proved it could make money, everybody wanted a piece of it. The success of Rapper's Delight created a problem. Everybody wanted another one. Not another rap record, another hit. There's a difference. Record labels wanted rappers. Radio stations wanted rappers. Promoters wanted rappers. Talent scouts wanted rappers. Everybody wanted rappers. The problem was, nobody really knew where to find them. Hip-hop wasn't living in recording studios. It was living in parks, rec centers, schoolyards, and community centers. The people making decisions in boardrooms weren't connected to the people creating the culture. But that didn't stop them from trying. And once money entered the picture, the scramble began. The gold rush was on. Executives fanned out across New York, looking for the next hit, the next group, the next Rapper's Delight, the next thing they could package, press into vinyl, and sell. But hip-hop wasn't standing still. While the music industry was chasing what had already happened, the culture was still evolving. New DJs, new MCs, new styles, new ideas. The parks were changing faster than the boardrooms could keep up. And that tension would define the next chapter of hip-hop history. The people who built the culture, and the people trying to sell it. The artists, the entrepreneurs, the innovators, the imitators, the community, the industry. Because Rapper's Delight had answered one question forever. Yes, rap could sell records. Now a different question remained. Who would control what happened next? The gates were open. The money was flowing. And the gold rush had only just begun. If you're still here, thanks. I really enjoy researching and sharing these stories with you, and I hope you're enjoying hearing them. Next week, we'll wrap up our journey into the history of hip-hop by looking at who would define what this new genre would become, and just how creative, competitive, and influential it would get. I hope you'll join me back here for it. If you haven't already, subscribe to the channel and like the video. It really goes a long way to proving my worth to my YouTube overlords. Until next time, I'm David, and this is the Underground Syllabus.